What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on the main channel. This is our last stream on the main channel before we head back over to our second channel, which has been rebranded as Blazers Uprise Podcast. I released a content trailer yesterday discussing our details for the season. We're doing more than ever. We'll take questions on that later on in the stream, and we can talk about it. I can explain things some more if you guys have questions. But the majority of this episode, we're going to be talking about how Joe Cronin and the Portland Trail Blazers dominated Media Day, or dominating. Is that the proper way to say it, Eric?
Yes.
Eric walks away.
Yes, it is.
We're going to talk about our reactions to Media Day, our reactions to the dominating, the Joe Cronin, the Scoot Henderson, the Anthony Simons, Chauncey Billups. We're basically going to be talking about themes from today because, there wasn't a ton to read into, but there were a couple of themes that we will talk about. And we can also take your questions, talk with you guys, chat. Today, for me, kind of signaled a turning page, Eric. A turning page, like the Dame saga's done. The Drew Holiday saga is done. Now maybe it will be a Malcolm Brogdon saga, but it sounds like they're going to keep him. We'll talk about that. So we're kind of done with the offseason. This always signals kind of the start of training camp. Training camp starts tomorrow, so it's time to talk about Blazer basketball for the 2023-2024 season. And with that being said, Eric, how was your Monday, man? Nice jersey, too.
Oh, it was pretty good, thanks. Just worked and kids soccer and all that kind of stuff. Watched Media Day and excited to stream.
Yeah, excited to just kind of relax. I played some basketball today, just shot around, jogged slightly. The ankle still isn't good. I need to start doing strength exercises and stuff. I've been slacking in my rehab. So I wanted to try and actually play tomorrow, but I definitely need a brace, and I just don't think it's a good idea. So, man, I just want to hoop. But hopefully I'm a week away. And the Blazers are a week away. The first preseason game is in 8 days. 8 days, Eric. The 10th of October will be the Blazers taking on the New Zealand Breakers, which is Ryan Repair's old team. He was asked about that today. We also heard from Tamani Kamara. We heard from every new Blazer except for the two guys acquired in the trade in Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams. We also didn't hear from Duop Reith or any of the Exhibit 10 guys, but it was a pretty wide range of interviews. You had Shaedon Sharpe and his, not knowing what paint a picture means. Jordan Kent would be ashamed. You had Chauncey, you had Joe. Scoot was a good interview. Just kind of just interesting to hear these guys speak about what went down with the Dame saga, but then also how they think they're going to play. So, first, is there anything that really stood out to you from today? Is there anything that really caught your attention, really caught your eye, where you think it's kind of something important in terms of this team's mindset, or maybe style of play, or just how they're looking at moving on from Dame? What jumped out to you the most?
I'll get to that in a second. Just want to say hello to chat. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're all doing well. Also, we forgot that part.
I'm just ready to hit the ground running. I'm all amped up.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway is somehow Gray Hughes Investigates got a hold of whoever's in charge of the PR and laid out a detailed description of how to answer each question to make it seem like Dame was holding this team back for several years. And so he definitely got his points across through that Media Day that Dame was the reason why they couldn't do a lot of things that they've wanted to do in the last couple of years. But now he's gone and they can do all these things. Chauncey's going to magically become a great coach and do all the things he's wanted to do since day one. Cronin's going to bring in all these players that he's wanted to bring in now that Dame's gone. He couldn't do it for some reason when Dame was here. And so this organization is just free of Dame, and that's going to be the reason why they're going to succeed moving forward.
the way they answered some questions, it's setting up this season to be like a make or break year for Chauncey, when it's probably not a good thing for this to be a make or break year for Chauncey, right? Like, the whole Chauncey ball thing is what I call it. Chauncey ball, Chauncey style of play, right? And it's kind of been a little bit of a running joke over the past couple of years. Like, do you remember that 4-game winning streak they went on right after they acquired Josh Hart at the deadline when they had Justice Winslow, Anthony Simons, Yusuf Nurkic, and it's like, oh, that's Chauncey ball. That's why Chauncey was brought in, and see, this 4-game winning streak is proof that Chauncey ball works. Chauncey just needs his type of players. But then the following year, Josh Hart's still here, but all of a sudden he's scared to shoot, and like Chauncey ball is not working with Hart and with Winslow after he came back from his injury. And you know, at the start of the year looked really good, but that was with them playing a zone defense that was completely unsustainable. So you know, it's just kind of funny. Here we are again, like, oh well, now this time Chauncey got his players. This time we can play Chauncey ball, and it is a bit of a different team. Like, we got 2 athletic bigs, like 2 of the most athletic centers in the league, 2 guys that a lot of Blazer fans wanted for a long time. So in terms of like maybe trapping and playing up above the level of the screen, I always thought Nurkic was a little bit underrated in that regard. I don't think Nurkic was as bad as people made him out to be, but now you got two bigs that can play up and really give problems at the point of a screen. And also, they're just going to play a super fast tempo. That was the other theme of this. We'll see how well it works, man. It's just, I always look at coaching like this. You got your best coaches can kind of adjust what they do to their roster. Coaches that aren't as good have to have a roster that fits perfectly for what they do because they can't adjust what they do, or they can't figure out how to maximize different teams. That's just kind of the feel I got from the whole Chauncey ball thing today. So, you know, this team might fit him more than ever, so I fully get that. It's just going to be interesting to see if Chauncey ball this year works, Eric.
I actually feel the exact opposite after listening to the press conference. I think they all think that he's a much better coach than he's shown, and that he has, I don't even think his job is anywhere near in jeopardy this year. I think he's got at least another season after this one, unless something like really drastic happens.
I mean, well, the problem is he hasn't really shown much is kind of the point I'm getting at. Like, what even is Chauncey ball? Because it's not even like there was much expanded upon in regards to Chauncey ball, like his style of play.
The funniest part is last year we heard that he finally had his players, type of players, and we're just going to be able to play Chauncey ball. But somehow Dame prevented that, I guess.
Yeah, like... Yeah, I don't understand that part, man, but whatever. Dame was playing great at the start of the year when they were winning games, and people were saying it's Chauncey ball. It's just like, I don't want this to become a thing where Chauncey's here for multiple years, and like every time they're played well, it's like, oh, see, we got guys that can play Chauncey ball, and then every time they start struggling, it's like, oh, I don't know why we're struggling, you know? Like, remember some of the quotes he had in press conferences last year. I'm slowly coming back to like remembering listening into press conference and stuff. It just comes down to like Chelsea has to coach his players that he has. There was people. I think Steven was one of the guys that was talking to me saying like he didn't like almost any player on the roster last year. But the attitude going into the season was, as you said, Chauncey ball. So this year, the attitude going into the season is once again Chauncey ball. It's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about that. We'll see what it looks like. I expect them to play at a faster tempo than ever, but that can also get reckless. You know, there's downsides. But that's why the season is going to be fun, because it's just a different roster than we've had in years. And having Dame for years, like... You know, everybody knows I love Dame, but Scoot, I think, will have this team playing at a faster pace than Dame ever did. Dame was kind of methodical, would like walk the ball up, wait for a screen, and then pull up from 28 at an insane clip, right? Like, Scoot, I think, is going to be a little bit different in terms of running the floor and pushing the pace. And maybe that works out for them offensively because they're not going to be able to rely on having a guy that can score like Dame.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say that I don't think Dame would have ever been opposed to running, but his first 9 years in the league, he had a coach that didn't really push the pace a lot and actually liked to slow it down and limit possessions and stuff. So that's how he tried to win defensively. So it's almost like, I don't know, like he learned how to do that, and then it's hard to like just change and then become fast again, you know?
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
I do need to say to Gray,
See, I typed out a response because I didn't want to take up airtime with it.
Can you please just take the dub that we gave you earlier and stop? Like, you got it. You got exactly what you want. You think Dame's a ball hog and was holding the team back. You got it, dude. Like, they all agreed with you. You're like, you don't have to keep telling us what you think. We know you think that way, and they said exactly what you wanted to hear. And I know you were sitting there like that was the best press conference you've ever seen in your life. Like, we get it, dude. Like, we got you. Like, we're not mad at you or anything. Just like, you don't have to like keep hitting that point home. Yeah.
Take your dub. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see if we win like 60 games off of Chauncey Ball, you know. I mean, this roster is intriguing going into the year. It is going to be interesting to see how good they are. It's not something where it's like, oh, they're for sure going to be a bottom 5 team in the league, given what they got back for Dame. And they still got future picks, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. Like, they're still playing it for the future and still have the upside of a couple unprotected future firsts. Still have the young core, but also have some pieces that will be interesting to see, notably DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, and Malcolm Brogdon if he stays. How does that look? That bench, having Brogdon and Robert Williams off the bench, and maybe Shaedon Sharpe if they start Matisse Thybulle, that might be the best bench that I've ever seen them have, just by having those 3 guys off the bench. So it creates some interesting storylines for the year, and it creates some interesting storylines with Media Day. Based on the interviews, and this is just kind of my own interpretation and feelings, I feel like they're going to start Thybulle. Because as you said, it feels like they have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to go out there and play for a play-in spot at the very least. Mm-hmm. I think going into the season, especially if they're not looking to move off Brogdon right now, I think they're happy with a lot of the pieces they got back. And you've been saying this all offseason, they think they're going to be competitive next year. They think they're going to be good, right? If they did not have confidence... What's up?
I just want to say they think they're going to be good, but they did everything they could to try to temper people from thinking that, so that when they are a little bit better than what they thought, then they'll be like really excited, right? They made a purpose today to make it seem like they weren't going to be good, or they were still going to be a long ways away, so that when they do go for it and win a few more games than we should, that it'll look a lot better.
They've always tempered expectations. Even from the moment Joe stepped in, it was a multi-year process to build around Dame, and always kind of hedging their bets. Confidence, but hedging their bets has kind of been the name of the game since Joe Cronin has taken over, and I agree that's kind of the feeling from these press conferences today. But I think that... I don't think Joe's going to tell Chauncey who to start, and I don't think Chauncey's going to start Sharpe just because he's younger, or to value his development over what he thinks is the best move for the team. And I think given that you're going to have Scoot and Simons and Ayton and Grant in the starting lineup, Chauncey's going to want that defensive player. Well, I have a feeling right now, a very strong feeling that Matisse Thybulle's going to start, and I had that feeling before Media Day, but Media Day confirmed it.
Yeah, and then you have Sharpe saying he doesn't care, so that helps too. I don't know if that's true or not, but...
Do you have a problem with him not caring if he starts?
No, it's the opposite for me. I like that attitude. Like, obviously I want him to want to start, and I think he does want to start, but I do like that he's just says that he wants to win and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 'Cause you could look at that one of two ways. Like, some people can look at it like, he should care if he starts. Like, he should want to be the number one guy on the team. Like, he should want that responsibility. He should, like, expect that out of himself. You know, it's kind of like the competitive mindset, right? Like, Josh Hart admitted he cared if he started. And he's super competitive, where, like, Sharp's kind of a chilled, laid-back guy. So I feel like when I heard that quote, it was like some people would take this as a positive. You know, he's being a team guy. He just wants to win. Where some people, I feel like, might take that as a negative, where he's just, you know, it's not a competitive enough mindset. I didn't take it either way. It's just kind of whatever, but I thought it was interesting.
He was asked right after that what his individual goals were for himself, and he said he didn't care about any of that. He just wants the team to win.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, to me, that anything that you would have tried to read into for the other answer, I think that solidified that his answer just meant he just was willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win, not that he really doesn't care. He's just going to be like nonchalant about it.
I do feel like if you asked him in a more private setting or one-on-one setting, he probably has goals for himself.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's always kind of interesting to see the difference in guys getting interviewed, where it's more just like, you know, somebody runs into him at Summer League and does a short little interview, compared to like you're sitting in front of multiple media members at a podium. I always thought the difference in some guys are interesting. So I'm sure he does have goals for himself. Guys will go up there and try and say the right thing, and I think he said the right things. I do want him to start. I don't want Thibault to start ahead of him, because a big thing with Sharp for me is last year when he was given more responsibility, he really, really grew. Mm-hmm. His playmaking, scoring, like just everything. He really, really grew when he was given more responsibility. And something about rolling back that responsibility after the growth he showed with it last year bugs me. I know that his performances last year came with like a tanking team where he had all the freedom in the world at the end of the season, where other teams didn't really take the Blazers that seriously, and obviously it's going to be different. He's not going to have that level of freedom going into the season. I just want to continue to see that growth, and I think that giving him leeway is important, because he's still extremely young. If he played a year in college, this would be his rookie season, Eric. He was supposed to play a year in college. He's supposed to be a rookie right now. And he's only 20 years old. He's not going to turn 21 until May, late May. So he's going to have some growing pains. I just, something about his role going into the season worries me, where if he's making a few mistakes at the start of the year, maybe trying to be more aggressive like he was at the end of last year, but it's not going as well, I'm slightly worried about like Chauncey cutting his minutes back in favor of a Matisse Thybulle, because right now you have 5 guys at the point guard, shooting guard, and small forward positions that don't play power forward. And they're all 5 legitimate guys. You got Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, Malcolm Brogdon, and Matisse Thybulle, who they just gave a contract to of over $10 million a year. If Shaedon struggles to start the season, I'm worried that he's going to become like the 5th guy out of those 5 and maybe have his minutes cut. Not where he's out of the rotation, but I feel like there might be a chance where there's games where he's only playing 18 to 20 minutes, because Scoot's playing 33 and Simons is playing 35 and Brogdon's playing 25 and Thybulle's playing 28 or 29, right? Because Chauncey values those guys and Sharp's making some mistakes. I just don't know if that's best for him. I feel like having the leeway and the freedom to play through some of his mistakes is good. Obviously, you have to hold him accountable. If he's slacking on D, you have to get him out of the game. But that's the balance as a head coach. You got to walk that fine line between accountability, but also giving a guy freedom to learn through his mistakes and develop, because that freedom I thought was great for him last year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, we'll have to get, I don't know if you want to do that now or later, but the Brogdon part of this equation is going to be, I think they're making a mistake by keeping him. But yeah, let's read off this donation because it kind of ties into what we're talking about.
Alrighty. You got it.
Yeah. Aero, $5 donation. his first ever super chat. Thank you so much. Thoughts on Scoot, Ant, and Sharp all starting? Feel like Sharp earned that starting spot at the end of last year.
That's what I want. Appreciate the donation. Yeah, that's what I want, and just see. It's more than just developing Sharp too. It's to see if he can play the three in the starting lineup effectively next to Scoot and Ant, and like, could that potentially work long term? Or if not, then you have to answer some questions. You know, if it's questionable. So bringing him off the bench, you're not seeing him with starting lineups at the three next to those two guys, and that's something that I want to see.
And for people asking in chat, they are not bringing either Anthony Simons or Jeremy Grant off the bench. It's just not happening this season.
No, and they shouldn't. Like, the problem is, you got to start Scoot. He's the third overall pick. Yeah. Bringing Scoot off the bench after basically choosing him over Dame is just ridiculous and a mistake. Well, you gotta let him have just a runway to take off from in terms of a role. Obviously, he has to earn it, but he was drafted third overall for a reason. He's talented. He is going to earn it. And even if you don't think he's a fit long term, if you want to trade him, bring him off the bench is only going to make his trade value worse. So benching either of those guys, I think, makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. And Daniel Custarian has a $2 donation. Could Shaden lose his confidence if he loses minutes? That's possible, but he didn't. I mean, what did he play like before the end of last season? He was maybe playing like 19, 20 minutes a game, I think. I don't remember exactly, but it was somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's going to get more than that. So he's going to get a bump up in minutes. So it's not like he's not getting anything. But I actually think, without telling anyone, this is how I would play it if I was Chauncey. Like, first day of practice, have Thibault starting, right? If you have like your ones versus your twos or whatever, have Thibault start, right? And then see how Sharp takes that, right? And if he works hard and is like really good in practices, all along you had the plan to start him, but you wanted to like show him that you working hard earned it. So if he does it, then he earned the starting spot over Thibault, despite Chauncey for initially thinking that he should come off the bench. And then his confidence could actually be the opposite way, where it just jumps up, right? Mm-hmm. And then, but like, if he kind of sulks or whatever, you could be like, this is exactly why Thibault is starting, right? So like, get your crap together, or you're not going to ever earn that spot. Like, I was expecting you to like step up and be like, nah, I'm not letting him have that starting spot. I'm going to show you that I'm going to take that from him. And that's the attitude I want you to have. And if he shows that attitude, then you reward him by giving him that starting spot. So I still think they'll probably start Thibault, but that's how I would play it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that'd be a good plan. I think that'd be a smart plan, you know, start Thibault in a couple preseason games.
Right, yeah.
To just really play that up. And
then game one, you're like, okay, dude, you were so good in training camp. I am elevating you to the starting lineup. I've already talked to Thibault. But, like, you could have maybe even talked to Thibault, like, before, like, this training camp even starts, you know?
Yeah. And here's the thing. Having Thibault as in practice over the course of the season, I think having Thibault and Brogdon, if he stays, and Robert Williams in with the twos is going to help Scoot, Sharp, Simons. Because Brogdon's the guy you got to guard. Like, he's going to make them work defensively in practices. And he's a good vet mentor for what it's worth. Robert Williams is gonna be a beast on the boards. You know, he's gonna make Ayton work, right? Yep. Like, those guys will make each other better every single day in practice. It's not like the starters are going up against scrubs. I think that dynamic is kind of nice. You know, Thibault is one of the best swing defenders in the league, right? So having him defensively guarding Sharp or Scoot or Ant is going to make those guys work. So I do like that they have depth going into the season, because I think practices will be good. And and I think you start Sharp, and let Thibault come off the bench. Let Thibault run with the twos. Here's the thing. It's not like Thibault won't play. It's not that Sharp won't play no matter who starts. It's just, as I said, it's responsibility for Sharp, and then seeing what he looks like against starters next to Scoot and Ant, and not rolling back the responsibility that produced some really good moments in development out of him over the course of that tanking stretch last season. So, still got to hold him accountable. If he's out there being lackadaisical,
like if he looks like a few times in Summer League.
Yeah, like he had some kind of rough moments in Summer League, and even going into last year, there's moments where he looks lackadaisical or looks like he's not giving 100% effort on defense. Well, you got a guy you can easily sub in for him pretty dang quickly in Matisse Thybulle, who will get after it defensively and will show him how he needs to play and why he got taken out of the game early for Matisse Thybulle. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if you're bringing in Sharp with a bench, it's actually a little harder to bench him quickly, just with the way lineups sort out. Whereas if you start him, it is easy to make a point. And that's for any of these young guys, That's the nice thing about having Scoot and Ant, both of them being able to play point guard. Like, if Ant's slacking off defensively, I know he's the veteran and the longest tenured Blazer, but he's still freaking young. Mm-hmm. He's still not in his prime yet. It's kind of strange. Yeah. That's the thing, is you can bring Thybulle in for any of these guys if they're not getting after it defensively. But I like challenging the guards to defend starters too. I don't want it to be a situation where Grant's on guards. I want those guys to have the challenge of guarding starters, of guarding stars, and just seeing how they grow from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you started to touch upon the Robert Williams aspect too. I think when you have a guy like Ayton and then you have Robert Williams, that's going to make it so Ayton has to step it up on defense and work his butt off on that end, because we have a guy who is legitimately one of the best defenders at his position in the league, and many say was the main reason why Boston's defense was so good a couple years ago. I think just having him there, it's going to be such a different, because we argued all last season about Nurk versus Eubanks, right?
Yeah.
But Eubanks wasn't good on defense, so it was a case of people were sick of Nurkic, or he was perceived to be moping or playing with an attitude some games, and so they wanted this energetic Eubanks in there, right? But at times they both had their moments last year, but overall last year neither of them were great. But now you have a guy who legitimately could come in and play maybe better than Ayton at times, or against certain teams. And so you do have that thing where they could push each other to do that. And hopefully Thybulle and Sharp do the same thing at small forward.
Yeah. Let's touch upon the Brogdon thing a little bit here. He didn't speak at Media Day, but he's been given a number. And was there...
So the reason for it is the trade technically isn't official yet. They are getting their physicals tomorrow night. Yeah. And so they can't even practice tomorrow yet. But yeah, so Joe said that he didn't perceive any problems, which to me means that they're going to pass him no matter what happens. Yeah. Unless something they haven't seen or knew about comes up. But yeah.
That trade was for the 2 first-round picks of Robert Williams. That alone is freaking good value in that trade. Mm. I wasn't over the moon about that trade like a lot of other Blazer fans, simply because I just don't know how valuable Robert Williams will be to us, because, I'm not a big fan of his fit with Ayton. And I think Ayton should be playing 32, 33 minutes a game as much as he can handle to see if he takes that step. If you're not playing Ayton legitimate minutes, he played 31, almost 31 minutes a game last year. If you're not playing him upwards of 31, 32, 33 minutes, I don't know how he's not going to take a step. Because his per minute production might be better, but he's playing less minutes. If you want to see if he could become a star, well, he should probably be playing star minutes. So with that combination, it's like, okay, so is Robert Williams, how much is Robert Williams going to play next to him? And if he's not playing much next to him because the fit's bad, then how much is Robert Williams playing at all? And that's where, I did a video on it, and it was, I think Robert Williams might have more value to another team, and I think a team would be willing to give up pretty dang good value to get him just because it's hard to find those bigs that are that good defensively and that athletic. So he creates a fun dynamic at the center position on a game-in, game-out basis. It's just going to be interesting to see how it sorts out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that I want Anthony, Scoot, and Sharp to at least be in that range that you talked about. I'd actually play them all 36 minutes a game, but they better be in that 31 to 33 range that you just talked for Ayton as well. And that's already 4 players that we have 31 to 33 minutes, and Grant's probably going to get 30 plus as well. So that doesn't leave a ton of minutes for some of these other guys. And that's why I don't really, I don't know, like Brogdon's too good to not play. Like you can't just have him be a mentor and nothing else. So he has to play on the court. And that's, Chauncey even said that, like when he was older, like he wasn't good enough he could tell people all day, but he couldn't show them on the court. But Brogdon is I mean, he's not a coach's DNP type player, so I don't think you can just not play him. But I mean, if you're only playing him 20 minutes a night, that's not a lot for a player of his caliber, and that's when you split that up between the 3 guards, that's 6-7 minutes each of them less that they get. So I don't know how to handle it with him here. Like it's probably fine for a while. I just hope that is resolved sooner rather than later, because I think it's fine for a couple weeks, but I wouldn't like take it to the trade deadline or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a situation where teams want to see him play and be healthy before they give up enough value to get him. Like, I understand the reasons why they might keep him to the deadline, and that's only Joe knows what, maybe the rest of the front office, but only the front office knows what other teams are willing to give up for Malcolm Brogdon right now. I think Joe should shop him all season long and see what he can get. But that is kind of the problem is I don't want the young guys' minutes to get cut too short. That is like my one worry going into next year, because as I've said personally, like the biggest thing next season is the development of our young players, because those guys developing are what is going to give this team a chance at a championship in the future. It's the most important thing. That should be valued above all else. So that's just the number one storyline going into the start of the season, is how much does it seem like this organization is valuing that compared to doing every little thing possible to win, maybe at the expense of developing their young players. So 50% of the chat said they would start Sharp. 29% said Thibault, and 20% said they'd start Grant at the 3 and play Robert Williams at the 4, which for the 20% of you that voted Grant, you're probably really cutting into the minutes of young players, because you already got those 5: Brogdon, Scoot, Simon, Sharp, and Thibault, point guard through small forward. If you're playing Grant, it's some small forward too. That just adds a 6th guy. Like, how do the minutes break out?
Well, you're probably adding minutes to Chris and Jabari, but taking him away from the guards.
See, but that's why I'd be okay. Like, that's why I want to trade Brogdon, because you would be able to keep giving the young core minutes, but also move Grant down to some small forward in some lineups to clear up some more minutes for Chris Murray and Jabari Walker. Because I want to see both those guys get a chance this year, especially with how good Jabari looked in Summer League, where he's knocking down threes. Like, I think Jabari could be set to take a step and maybe be a solid enough role player to deserve minutes this year, and I think he will earn an opportunity. The problem is, if you're playing Jeremy Grant ahead of him and he's not able to slide down and play some 3, you don't have many minutes at the power forward spot. and you don't have any minutes at the center spot anymore because you got DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams, and maybe Robert Williams plays some with DeAndre Ayton. Like, there's not many minutes there. So, with the way things work out, like, having Malcolm Brogdon could actually make it hard for, like, Jabari Walker and Chris Murray to get minutes just because you swing up and down positions that way. My gut feeling is right now they're going to start Thibault, and Thibauld's, Brogdon's going to come off the bench and play big minutes. Same thing with Thibault, and maybe you run some 4-guard lineups. Not sure. I don't think there's going to be much opportunity for even Chris Murray, which is kind of frustrating because he was drafted as an NBA-ready, like, role-playing prospect, and we're supposed to be a young rebuilding team, and somehow, he might not have a role. It's just kind of backwards. Like, he's the type of guy that a contender or a winning team drafts to fill a backup power forward spot. We're a team kind of in rebuild mode, and we might not have a spot for him, so.
Well, when I mentioned the 36 minutes for Sharp with him starting at small forward last stream, and that would only leave him playing 12 minutes at small forward and then the rest of his minutes at guard. You were like, well, who are the other minutes going to? And I said Thibault, and you were like, all of them. And
yeah.
So I guess I don't see any scenario where the team thinks this way, but you do have 36 minutes. I guess you could split them between Brogdon and Thibault, and maybe you play Sharp like 32 minutes, so you got that would be 40 minutes. Yeah, so 20 for each. I think that's, if you're going to try to make it work, that's the only way I see it work. But if Thibault's getting like 30 minutes a game, that's just gonna.
Here's my thing, though.
Mess everything up.
Why did they match Thibault's contract if they're only going to play him 20 minutes a game?
Well,
they're paying him $11 million a year, you know what I mean?
I mean, this is the stuff we think about, and then we get crapped on when we don't like matching the contract because everyone loves Thibault, right?
Yeah.
But, like, we're, like, two of the only people who didn't want to match that, and this is exactly why.
Yeah. If I felt like he could be flipped for, like, legitimate value, then I would have wanted to match it just to do it, just like Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
We overpaid for Grant, but I still think we can get value out of a trade, and I think we might look to trade him depending on how the season's going. But that's the thing is just that's why, because people ask me all the time, why wouldn't you want to keep Brogdon? He's a good vet mentor, and he's a good player, and they just think about it that way. But it's like, okay, well, if you give him minutes, you're taking away minutes from someone else, and what should the priority be? So that's going to be a storyline in preseason games too. We'll do post-game shows for preseason games, and we'll talk about kind of how it shakes out. It's not easy to read into what the lineups could be from preseason, but you can get a little bit of a feel. Obviously, end of games, you play some bench guys, but yeah, Sharp, I want to see him take that step. I think Scoot will be good. Not great his rookie year because he's a rookie and 19 years old. My expectations are not for him to become an all-star year one. If he does, we're golden. But I think the kind of swing guy in this season is Shaedon Sharp. If he struggles or he, doesn't look better than last year, all of a sudden I'm feeling a little bit more queasy about the rebuild. Whereas if he looks like a star, I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
If he looks like he did at the end of last season, I'm feeling great. Him and Ayton, that's really the two guys that I think are kind of the X factors where I don't know exactly what we're going to get out of them next year. I actually feel more confident in terms of what we're going to get out of Scoot maybe than Ayton or Sharp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, when everyone's saying how good he looks, whether it's players in scrimmages or coaches or, general managers or whatever, like I'm pretty confident that Scoot's going to be at least decent right away.
Yeah. Shout out to Gray Hughes Investigates, $10 donation, says, wouldn't a better starting lineup be Ant, Scoot, Sharp, Thibault, and Ayton, even though that isn't an option? I don't like Thibault as I don't like Thibault as a power forward.
Yeah, he's not a power forward.
Just doesn't really make sense. So, I'm
Wait,
fine with Thibault off the bench behind those guys just because he's a defensive complement.
so people had a problem with the 3-guard lineup for years, and now we're going to start guards at both forwards. Well, we have better defensive, long, athletic players, like Joe Cronin said today. So,
yeah. Going back to
let's use that.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to me today, is there anything else that really jumped out from you? I have a theme that I want to give, but I'm wondering if there was something more specific.
Well, I thought it was interesting that Chauncey made a point to thank Jody and go on about it. Sounds like she's well liked by people, and then Dame included her in the thank you letter to Portland or whatever. And Dwayne Hankins also said the team wasn't for sale and that Jody's very involved in everything that happens. So I don't know if that's just them trying to push that narrative so it helps with the sale eventually. But yeah, it's just that was an interesting thing for me today, is just how much they pushed how involved Jody was.
The problem is, I don't know if she's the most involved owner. Because basically, effectively, Burt Cold is also an owner of this team.
Yeah.
And it feels like he has his fingerprints more on this team than Jody does. And I feel like the team needs to get sold more so because of Burt than Jody at this point. Because, Dame's shouting out Jody. He's not saying anything about Burt, not saying anything about Joe. Heard that Burt, hated Miami. Steven had said something on our podcast about Eric Spoelstra's dad, Paul Allen always liked or something, and that bothered Burt Cold, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. Who knows, but it was very oddly specific. You don't want an owner that meddles too much. You don't want somebody who's not an owner but with ownership that meddles too much, especially. So I think that's kind of the one thing that Blazer fans have been able to agree on is they want new ownership. They want the team to be sold. And everything ownership does is just Jody, right? And Burt Cold's off to the side. I think it might be more Burt Cold and Jody's off to the side and Jody's involved, but it's just interesting how what the power dynamic is at the top of this organization. But that's also part of the reason why the team needs to get sold, because we don't even know what the power dynamic is in terms of ownership and how that filters down.
Well, my thing is, I mean, we've talked about this at length. Unlike in baseball right now, there's teams like the Orioles and the Rays who are good but have the lowest payroll. And then there's teams that spend crazy amounts of money, like the Padres, and don't make the playoffs. The Yankees don't make the playoffs.
Mets were the highest payroll. They didn't make the playoffs.
Mets were terrible this year. So there's you can actually make a case that you're better off with younger players and playing it smart financially. But in the NBA, it's almost proven, unless you just have some insane jump from a bunch of players on rookie contracts, like maybe OKC this year, you pretty much have to commit to at least going into the first tax. And we'll see how the second tax affects this in future years. But you pretty much have to commit financially if you are doing whatever it takes and committed to winning as an owner. So if you are committed, if Jody is what they're saying she is, she can't also do what she did the last few years with Dame And that's like when we make a trade, refuse to let Joe take any salary in the future on because it might impact whether they can stay in the tax 2 years from now or whatever, even though the repeater tax has been reset and we're no danger of that. She's been unwilling to take on salary in future years in some of these trades, and it has affected the return. So it doesn't make any sense to do it in the Dame trade, but I'm talking about all the other trades prior to the Dame trade. And so unless she is like, okay, this time we're building a team. Obviously this year we don't want to be in the tax, but in future years, I will not limit you in that. If you want to take on a player and it might affect our salary 2 years from now, I will not have that restriction anymore until she does that. And you don't be stupid about it. Like you can't just like, trade for Ben Simmons or something to go in the tax, right? And then hope he works out. Like it has to be someone that makes sense and that we know will do it. But like until she makes that commitment that she has not so far made as an owner, I don't see how what they're saying can match what actually happens with the roster.
Yeah, when you have a multi-year sample size, trust the status quo until the status quo changes. Like, I am trusting that she is not going to pay the tax or financially commit to this team, despite hearing a bunch of stuff about how she is. I'm not going to trust that until she actually does it. And people say, oh, she'll do it for a contender. Well, I mean, weren't we trying to build a contender supposedly the past 2 years and she wasn't willing to do it? Like, a lot of times you have to spend to build a contender. You have to be able to take on that financial responsibility in order to become a contender. Most of the time it doesn't happen where, oh, we're contending, now we can pay the tax. So that's kind of my problem. But it was interesting how much they touched upon Jody. I want to talk about a style of play, but before we jump into that, I want to thank the sponsor for this edition of Blazers Uprise Live, and that is, you know them, it is Manta Sleep Mask, who will be sponsoring us this season. They are the top brand sleep mask on the market. They have a bunch of different sleep masks to fit your needs. This that I'm holding up is the sound mask, has Bluetooth speakers in it, so you can use it to fall asleep to sound if you like white noise or sounds of waves on the beach or whatever you fall asleep to. You can wear this sleep mask. It blocks out all light if you don't have a blackout curtain like me. And also you can listen to whatever. You can use it for meditation. It's really good for that. And then they also have a bunch of different options, like aromatherapy. They got cooling eye cups. They got steam cups as well. You know, we're heading towards winter. It's a little bit colder, so steam cups. They got a bunch of different stuff for you over there. They also got blue light glasses that I want to buy because I'm on a computer screen all day long, such is the life of a YouTuber. So check out Manta Sleep Mask. There's a link in the description box below, and you can use our promo code UPRISE for 10% off, which UPRISE is just a really cool code, you know? So get it for yourself. Get it for someone you care about. Showing you care about their sleep is a great gesture for anyone in your life. And thank you to Manta Sleep Mask for sponsoring Blazers Uprise. All right. Let's jump into kind of what I want to talk about after this donation. Eric Conan Dune with a $5 donation says, my concern by keeping Brogdon and vets is this team being too good. I feel like we need another core piece via a top 3 draft pick. Eric, do you have thoughts on that, or do you want me to give mine?
You go ahead, because I actually do have some thoughts, and it's going to be maybe a bit of a hot take.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, how can I give as mundane of a take as possible so Eric's take really pops? Here's the thing. We had Damian Lillard having his best season ever last year with 2 other guys scoring 20 points per game and still got the 3rd overall pick, and we're one number on one ping pong ball away from having Victor Wembanyama and Damian Lillard on this team this season. So, if we'll find a way to tank. A lot of the bottom feeders are better. OKC's better. Houston picked up a couple vets. I guess they're better. Detroit, if Cade's healthy, they're just going to be better by having him. They brought in Asar Thompson. Even San Antonio, they got Victor Wembanyama. So we'll see how he can lead them and see how good they will be. I don't think the bottom of the league is as bad as it's been in prior years. So I think Portland still has a chance to get a top 3 pick. You saw it last year where the Blazers were able to play their way into top 5 odds, 5th best odds with 33 wins, despite the year before having 6th best odds with 27 wins. So they won 6 more games and had better odds in the lottery than the year before. So I'm not too worried about being too good. I don't want to go into next season worried about being too good. I'm worried about development, and you got some solid players on this team that might make this team a play-in team, right? But like, if this team plays its way into the playoffs, could that be valuable experience for Scoot? Sure. We don't keep our pick, but also we solve that problem. But I do think at some point, like, Brogdon's going to get traded. We've already had rumors about how the Blazers are going to trade Jeremy Grant. Unless this team is like, 10-3, 10-4 at the beginning of the season, maybe like 15-11, 15-10. Unless this team gets off to that type of start, if they're below 500, I do think they're going to do what they did in years past and just kind of like sell and embrace the tank at the end of the season. What are your thoughts, Eric?
I think. Wait, what was the bet with Gray Hughes? Was it $50?
$50.
All right. I think you're in danger of losing $50, Tori. I
thought it was contingent upon Nurk being on the team. That's what Gray kept saying.
No, he kept saying he should have made it contingent on it, but he didn't. But anyways,
he shouldn't have, because they do have a chance.
Actually,
Oh God, what are you about to say? Are you drinking the Kool-Aid? Are you becoming a Joe Cronin supporter?
No, because once again, this is not what I would have done this season, because I don't think we have like championship like level with this roster like as a ceiling. So I think we could only get there if we add pieces that we could get from the draft. But I keep coming back to this. Tell me how we could not be as good as the Kings last year. I think we have the pieces to be a team like the Kings were last year.
I don't think...
Chauncey, Chauncey.
They got two guys that play. They got 2 guys that play at a star level though. Like De'Aaron Fox was a star level point guard. Yeah. If Scoot has a rookie season that's comparable to De'Aaron Fox's, then we are freaking golden. Like that's maybe the best case scenario, the best of best cases. Like that is super optimistic. And with having like a 19-year-old point guard running things, like he's gonna make mistakes. He did have some rough turnovers last year, where he just pre-planned some things. Like he has to learn not to pre-plan things, especially in the NBA, where you got guys that are even more athletic than the G League that will shoot that passing lane. The thing is, the Kings were good last year because they were insanely healthy. What? If they were not as healthy, Eric, they would not have been the 3 seed. I don't think the Blazers will ever be that healthy because they are the Blazers.
Right, that's true. So Taylor Packer has a good point. Why can't Anthony be as good as Fox was last year?
I mean, he can be. I still feel like it's optimistic even for Ant, because Fox was what, like 24-7?
Something like that. And super clutch. It'll be hard to match that.
I also don't think our shooting is as good.
Yeah. Well, what if Chris is just as good as Keegan?
Then he wouldn't have fallen to 23. Come on now.
Yeah. What if Ayton's better than Sabonis?
I mean, what if Ayton's better than Jokic? Like, let's just go all the way with this. I mean, who knows? who knows? But if they were a team with home court advantage, it'd be maybe the most shocking team to get home court advantage given the perception at the start of the season in maybe the past decade. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. People thought the Kings would be decent and make the playoffs last year, but I don't think anyone thought they would.
Yeah, but people think of us as a bottom feeder.
Yeah.
You know? I see some people like looking at the lineup like, oh, this team might actually be okay, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to think that I don't know, Robert Williams, if he's healthy, like you said, health is going to be critical, but he's like the exact type of big man we've needed for several years and can cover a lot of flaws that we haven't had that type of player on our roster. So I'm starting to buy that maybe this team could be good and they're going to score a ton of points. They have scorers. They have playmakers. They have guys who can create. They have a center who can put up numbers. It remains to be seen how much that impacts winning or not. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be like surprised if we're sitting here talking about them not that far away from where they were at points last year.
We'll have a stream where we predict wins and predict where teams finish, chat. So we're going to move these shows back over on Thursday to the second channel, Blazers Uprise Podcast. There's a link in the description box below. You definitely want to go subscribe. So you don't miss that, because that should be fun. I think this might be the most wide range of expectations we've ever had. I don't know, man. Like, it takes so much to go right. Like, we'd have to be basically the luckiest team in the league in terms of injuries, and then you're talking about a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old is like big parts of your core. They're still gonna make mistakes. Ant's never consistently been the number one guy. I want to give him that role and see what he can do, but you also look at Chauncey. Can he coach a winner consistently? Because he hasn't in the 2 years he's been here. Now, he hasn't been dealt a good hand whatsoever, so I'm not ruling it out. There's just a lot of question marks still. And you bring up Robert Williams. I absolutely agree. But also, it's how's he going to get his minutes? Is he going to be playing next to Ayton? Are you going to have lineups with like Thibault, Robert Williams, and Ayton? And maybe Scoot, where Thibault's your second best shooter on the court? Or is Robert Williams only going to be playing 18 minutes a game? You know, it's hard to have a huge impact if you're playing less than half the game. So, you know, that's just kind of like some of the question marks. But that's why this season is so fascinating and the storylines are fun. And I'm kind of looking forward to the season because I'm going in with no expectations and I just get to sit back, relax, and watch it play out. Mm-hmm. It's kind of somewhere we've never been before. So, you know, I'm not going to... I know better than to like completely rule out the most crazy scenarios. I feel like we're going to start this season, maybe like, you remember Utah, the way they started last season, where it was like, wow, the Blazers and the Jazz are number one in the West. They're both 10-3.
Yeah.
And then they just like slowly faltered off, like, you know, faltered the rest of the season and then got the 9th pick. If I had to predict right now, like, it'll probably be something like that. Maybe we don't start so hot, but maybe we have a stretch in the middle season where it's like, oh my goodness, this team is actually solid. Mm-hmm. I just think it's going to be hard to sustain. I don't know. I haven't even thought about this yet, so this is my first time even thinking about how good this team could be next year.
Well, okay, so going back to that part of last year that you talked about, okay, Dame missed some time, right? And Anthony and Grant played really well in the games that he missed, right? Including that there was that game in New York where they both shot like 8,000 free throws and and we won in overtime, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking for the first few weeks of the season that, like, do we have a second All-Star on this team, right? So like they're not. it wouldn't surprise me if either one of those was a fringe all-star this season, right? Or both of them. And then you have a center who played a meaningful role on a team that went to the finals a couple years ago. You have, a rookie who would be like, everyone's expecting to be a star, could come in if he's somewhat close to a rookie Dame. I think that's a boost. You got second year breakout from Sharp possibly, and now you have all these defensive minded role players too, like Thibault and Robert Williams. I think it might just like somehow click. And the only reason why it might not is because of Chauncey, because Mike Brown is an excellent coach. I would feel much more better about this if he was the coach now. But so I don't know. Like I could see this just like fitting somehow and working, and everyone's got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder this year and all that kind of stuff because of the Dame
thing. Are
they
a playoff team?
I think they're playing team.
You think they're a playing team?
Yeah.
Do you think they play their way into the playoffs?
I don't know. I don't think they'll be good in the playoffs. Like they'll be like the Kings last year, losing the first round probably, no matter what it is. But
who do you think they're better than right now?
I think they're better than Houston.
Agree.
I think they're better than San Antonio.
Agree.
Depending on Wemby. Like if Wemby's like awesome, then maybe not.
Yeah, but even if he's awesome, like
yeah.
I agree with San Antonio.
I think they're better than Utah.
I agree.
I'm missing one. Am I missing one of the other bottom feeders?
I think you're thinking of OKC, but they're not a bottom feeder anymore.
No. I'm not thinking of OKC.
There's no other bottom feeders. Like Minnesota might be next. That's the thing is like, the West is deep. The West is deep. Like I could see this team being decent and 12th in the West.
They match up pretty good with Minnesota. I don't know about like record wise during the regular season, but yeah. And
like I think they're kind of. Yeah, I'd put them 12th.
You mentioned health, right?
Yeah.
Like Clippers, Lakers, Pelicans with Zion. Those are all teams that have major health concerns with some of their players. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Williams has health concerns. I still like the biggest one of the biggest things this year for me, and I don't even really want to talk about this, but like I just want to see a full season from Scoot because he did have an injury last year in the G League and then gets hurt in the first game of Summer League, which like seemed like it was more precautionary, but like I want to, hopefully Scoot stays healthy all year. Injuries can strike anyone though, is kind of the problem. So I don't even like banking on injury luck. If we're healthy, then yeah, we could be in the playoffs simply because other teams are injured. You got Zion in New Orleans is kind of a big one, but just hard to predict that at the start of the season.
Yeah, of course. I lost my train of thought.
Let me read a donation then, and then I'll get into kind of a style of play, which I think is important for them to maybe make a playoff push. Shout out to Claude DeCourcy with a $5 donation. Says, Tori, who could we trade Brogdon for that would change your mind? Change my mind on what specifically? Thank you for the $5 donation. I want to trade Brogdon. I don't know what the right package would be. Like, if we're trading Brogdon for pieces that can help us next year, I kind of would rather have them in the front court at the forward positions. Like, I tossed something out on Twitter where it was like, if the Clippers still want him, maybe you can get that 2028 protected first, and then they'd have to trade contracts. So maybe it's like Nick Batum and Robert Covington, right? Which are up there in age, but both those guys shot close to 40% from three last year and can play some sort of defense. So you got your backup 3 in Batum that wouldn't be demanding as many minutes as Brogdon and can swing up to the 4, and then Rocco is the backup 4. Like, that bench is intriguing, whether you have Thibault or Sharp. Because although, if you have Thibault on the bench, all 4 guys, Robert Williams, Rocco, Batum, Thibault, like, I wouldn't consider any of them a negative defender, which is unusual to have off a bench. So maybe they would start Thibault there because they'd want Sharp scoring off the bench just to kind of mix and match the lineups. I'm not sure, but like that type of trade, the goal is to get a first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
But if another team is going to have to send out contracts, so if they're sending out usable rotation players, I don't want a guard that deserves a bunch of minutes.
That's why my favorite trade is still just to get our pick back and maybe a couple seconds for taking on Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Then, if he ever comes back and gets some value back, then that's fine. If not, you at least got your picks freed up in the future.
Yeah, so like at the deadline, if the Blazers are decent, and I mean, could you imagine the Blazers are decent, Joel Embiid becomes available, and we have all our future firsts, so we can trade 4 first-round picks, and then we can trade a 2029 Boston unprotected, a 2029 Milwaukee unprotected, a 2024 Golden State first, so that's 7 firsts, and then like Ayton if he's playing at a borderline all-star level. I mean, does that just win Embiid? You know what I mean? Like, are we in play for any star?
Well, I mean, technically yes, but knowing the Blazers, what would happen is they would not make that trade because of Ayton, and then he would go back to not being as good next year, and we'd always wonder what would have happened if we traded him.
Yeah, and Embiid probably wouldn't want to be here with no Dame. It's just, could you imagine that this season? Like, I can't roll out something like that where, like, we finally acquire a star that we never could with Dame, but now we can because we lost Dame. The irony in that would be something else. But, I mean, they have assets, It's like, some people want to go the quick rebuild route. I'm okay with that if they get to contention. I don't want to short-circuit the rebuild for a team that's just a playoff team, and then we're like, crap, we don't have a bunch of assets now. How do we get this team to take the final step? And all of a sudden, we're in the same position that we always were with Dame. Like, that is my biggest fear out of this. Like, I want to do it right so that they can maximize their chances to win a championship in the next decade. But maybe they have enough pieces where you add a guy like that and you continue to develop the young core, and in a couple years they're contenders. I don't know.
Rob says even if Embiid requests out, don't rule out Daryl Snorri and just not trading him. That's true too.
Yeah, maybe we get Embiid and Harden.
One of the reasons why I'm saying the Blazers have a chance of making the playoffs and being decent is because I think when this played out last year, but I think it's going to be even worse this year, where there's so many good teams and so many teams that aren't taking, that there's just going to be a lot of teams that are good that aren't necessarily having 60 wins or anything like that. So like 45 wins, what would 45 wins get you last year? Let me look up the standings. But like a normal tanking year like last year, or like if it wasn't like last year, how many ever games we won wouldn't have been the 5th seed in most years. Like it would have been way worse, right? And same with like how many games we won the year before that.
45 gets 8th, says Zombie Amarth in chat.
So yeah, I mean, we're not even talking winning 50 games and you're in the play-in pretty easily. You're in the first play-in, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. You know what will be If they're going to be that good, Eric, you know what the key is? Having an identity.
Yeah.
Like having something that as a team you do really well and it gives you an advantage over other teams.
Yeah,
You know what?
The Thunder are 40 and 42, just for the record. They almost been.
You know what the identity might be? Their biggest strength might be an identity that we haven't seen them have in I don't know how long. I think there's a chance that they are the fastest paced team in the league.
It'd be so fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's just different, but I think that might be their identity. Like, they're going to be super aggressive defensively and try and force a bunch of turnovers so they can get out and run, and even on makes they're running. Because that's basically the biggest takeaway in terms of style of play that I heard from media day today is you got guys that are just going to run the court. And here's the thing, though, is like to have that identity, you need a bunch of players that fit that identity. You know, like there's some things as a coach where you can kind of mold the way you do things in order to fit your roster and bring out certain qualities. Like you can play Yusuf Nurkic up at the point of the screen if you maybe rotate the help behind him a little bit stronger or off a shooter that isn't a great three-point shooter. Like there's a lot of nuance to coaching, and I think you can kind of like both mold your coaching style and figure out ways to place certain styles of basketball with a roster. But as far as running the court goes, you gotta have guys that can run. Like just plain simple, you gotta have guys that can run. It also helps having guys that can handle the ball and make plays for themselves and others. Because when you get a rebound, if Scoot's completely on the other side of the floor because maybe he closed out to the corner, it takes time to pivot, turn to Scoot, get him the ball, and run up the court. Now, Scoot is so freaking fast that he could still probably put pressure on a defense in transition in any situation where he receives an outlet pass. But if you got multiple guys that can handle the ball, bring the ball up, and you can hit a hit-ahead pass off an outlet to Anthony Simons, or maybe it's Shane Sharp, or maybe it's Malcolm Brogdon, maybe even it's Jeremy Grant. Because Jeremy Grant for a four can kind of handle an attack. He's not the greatest passer playmaker, but he can at least put pressure on the rim. That's kind of what you need to run the floor. And then also you need bigs that can run the floor. And they got two of them. They got Ayton and Robert Williams. Both those guys are really good at running the floor. Both those guys are pretty dang fast for big men. So you got those guys rumbling down the lane. And Chauncey has tried to preach it the past couple of years. It's just like when you got Yusuf Nurkic and Dame has never played at the fastest pace, like you don't really have the guys necessarily to do that at an elite level. They might have the guys to do that at an elite level, so if they're going to maximize their ceiling, and who knows what their ceiling is, I think it would be getting out and running the floor, because I think that's honestly the only way that they could be maybe a top 5 offense. If they're stuck in the half court, I think this offense is going to struggle more than if they're out running the break, which is kind of maybe the opposite that it's always been.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Especially maybe if you're running lineups with both Williams and Ayton.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're playing in transition, it's not like the defense is set and clogging the paint. Whereas if you're stuck in a half-court set with two bigs that don't shoot threes, I mean, Ayton will shoot a couple, but he doesn't shoot them often.
Yeah.
Which we need to have a conversation about that, by the way.
How we should?
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about this. I feel like a big part in seeing if Ayton can take a step is just unleashing him and giving him freedom to shoot threes.
Like
yeah, and just saying screw it.
Yeah.
Because he always beefed with Monty, and it was like he's not getting enough shots and this and that, and Gabe always speculated like, yeah, it just seems like Monty tells him not to shoot threes, or like doesn't really want him shooting threes, so he doesn't even look at the rim. Given what they saw out of Yusuf Nurkic last year, I wouldn't be surprised if going into the season, this coaching staff and this organization is just like, yeah, shoot threes. Like, you got touch. He's a good mid-range shooter for a big man. 76% from the free throw line. For his career, he's only 26% from three. He's never shot more than half a three a game, basically. So it's not good, but some of that might be confidence. I do think the one thing that would hold him back is his shot is so flat. I think that's why he's able to hit a lot of mid-range shots, but not threes, is because when you're shooting from that far away and you shoot it flat, the ball's just flying at the rim at a suboptimal angle, has a lot of velocity. It's just kind of physics. So I don't know if he can become a solid three-point shooter, but if they're going to play him next to Robert Williams, you probably want Ayton to be able to spread the floor a bit and see if he can extend that touch from the mid-range out to three.
Yeah, my only concern is then it's hard to be dominating when you are hovering around the three-point line. So as long as he doesn't...
Does Joel Embiid dominate?
I mean, how many threes a game does Embiid shoot?
Guess. I'm curious what you think it is.
I'd say it's like 3 maybe at the most.
Yeah, on the nose.
Okay.
But he's still not a guy that you just leave behind the arc, right?
Right. But, I mean, he's also can play make and create his own shot and stuff.
Is the best version of Ayton somebody that can do that as well?
I don't see the playmaking upside there. I think he can score and create maybe as the best version, but I don't know about like letting him lead your offense from the top. I don't know if he's that type of player like Embiid is.
Yeah, I think if he can shoot, that's just the thing for me. If he can shoot threes, he can kind of handle the ball. When he played FIBA, he was handling the ball and like dribble driving and stuff, and he's decently quick, and he can always stop and pop from the mid range, and he's agile. Like, I just think he needs to be able to get that defender out on him. He needs to be able to hit threes, and that's the thing with Ayton this year, is just challenging him to be a different player, and that's where it's like about development. And I say it's for the development of Scoot, Sharp, and Simons, but I also think that if you're not hell-bent on winning every single game, then why wouldn't you challenge Ayton and see if he can, shoot the three ball consistently? Like, and there's a comment in chat, there's a comment in chat that says, you don't become a good shooter just by shooting more. I don't fully agree with that, because a lot of shooting is confidence. And if you have the green light where somebody's telling you, yeah, you better shoot the ball if you're open from three.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a bad thing when you don't shoot. It's like, okay, I'm going to shoot the ball. Like, and it doesn't matter if I miss because I need to shoot the ball. Whereas if you aren't shooting a bunch of threes and you're maybe told not to by your coaches, it's like, oh, I shouldn't shoot. Oh, I'm so open, though. And you start second guessing it. It's a big confidence thing. And we saw that with Nurkic. Nurkic, you could tell he finally got confidence shooting the three ball last year, and he was knocking down a decent amount of them. Before that, he was a similar three-point shooter to Ayton. So maybe Ayton can take that jump, and I think it could open up some dribble drive stuff and maybe make him that star big. So I kind of just want him shooting threes.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like, I think a little bit of this happened with Jabari Walker last year. It's like you weren't expecting to play much. You get in a game, and then like all of a sudden you're like open for a three, and you're probably thinking about it like, oh, don't screw this up, right? Whereas if you're being told, oh man, if you're open, I want you shooting that shot, I don't care if you miss it or whatever, like that gives you confidence next time you're in that situation to be like, okay, like I don't have to worry about as much because coach said it's fine. Like he wants me to shoot it whether I make it or not. And so yeah, like as long as it's within the offense, I don't think they should like force him to shoot like 4 threes a game or something. But yeah, I don't mind giving him a little bit of a green light and seeing how it goes. You can always take it away later on.
Because here's the thing: what star in this league doesn't shoot threes and needs to be fed for a lot of his offense? I don't know if there's a single star in this league that can't create his own shot and can't shoot threes.
Well, I don't know about star, but like, I mean, there's a lot of good players that
Ayton's a good player. Isn't the point
get like offensive rebounds and yeah.
Yeah, but isn't the point to hopefully get him to be better than just a good player?
Yeah, people are saying Giannis.
but Giannis can create his own shot. Giannis is a freight train from half court and a great ball handler, and he still shoots threes. You know what I mean? Even though he doesn't shoot threes, like he's still handling the ball, he's still driving, he's still attacking from the perimeter. So like, if Ayton's going to be a star, how's he going to do it if he's not creating some of his own stuff from the perimeter? Like, the NBA isn't a league anymore where you're just going to do it off post-ups. And if you got to be fed a lot of your offense, it's hard to be that star-level player. Because you just don't see guys like that. So that's kind of my thing for him is if he's going to take that jump, where's it going to be offensively?
It's funny. Aeromancer says Ayton can't catch passes for bleep. And then a couple comments down, the Blazer fan says Ayton is so easy to throw a pass to, he'll catch just about anything. And then right after that, Parker says Ayton looks like he has butterfingers.
So Suns fans say he can't catch a pass. I saw a lot of Blazer fans saying, oh, it'll be nice to have a center that can catch a pass. Suns fans were saying, like, Suns fans would get annoyed for Ayton because he wouldn't dunk the ball. And now they're getting Yusuf Nurkic, who dunks a lot less. But Yusuf Nurkic is a more ground-bound player. Like, I understand it. It might be frustrating at points this year where, like, Ayton, I feel like he could just rise up and dunk over someone. But there's been times where he seems to get scared for some reason, even though he's the biggest player and an athletic center, an athletic 7-footer. He gets scared and, like, shoots a little push shot and misses. Right? Or shoot a little, like, 8-footer, even though he has a lane to the rim where he can drive and dunk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my thing for Ayton, is just where does that growth come from? I think being able to knock down threes obviously will kind of extend his offense and allow him to space, and then will make it so that guys will have to close out on him, and then maybe he can start dribble driving to the rim and have some growth there. I don't know. Like, I don't see any other way where he's a star-level big. Maybe he can just get his offense like LaMarcus Aldridge did. I mean, maybe that's the most recent example, though, is LaMarcus Aldridge.
Yeah, or maybe he just becomes a terror on the offensive glass. Because I don't know, a player like that, if they really wanted to be like a good offensive rebounder, it'd be impossible to stop him.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't have faith in that happening. I'm just saying that's one way a lot of players that can't shoot end up doing or have impacting the game.
He can be at the level of Lauri Markkanen. He was an all-star. Lauri Markkanen shoots threes. And then attacks closeouts. Like, I know he gets fed on a lot of his offense, but he gets fed on a lot of threes. It's harder to get fed a high diet of shots when you can't shoot threes or you don't shoot threes. So that's the intriguing thing to watch with Ayton this year. Gobert was a star because he was just a defensive anomaly, though. Like, Ayton's not
offense.
Yeah, it wasn't offense. Like, there's only maybe one or two guys that could be a star in this league because of defense. And Gobert was one of those guys.
Do you know... Don't tell Tori. Do you know how many dunks Nurk had last year?
Like 20-something.
It's 21, yeah. Okay, you knew.
Yeah, pretty bad. Somebody brings up Sabonis. Sabonis can handle and, like, really pass the ball. If Sabonis couldn't pass the ball the way he does, he probably wouldn't be a star. He'd be, like, a really good starter. So, yeah. I mean, that's just my question with Ayton is, like, how does that leap to stardom come if it's possible?
Just by dominating.
Just by dominating.
It's just a mindset.
Chat, how do you feel about DA saying, my name is Dominatin'? How do you feel about that, chat? Do you love it? Do you hate it?
I do not mind the nickname, but you can't talk about yourself as your nickname. Like, you can't.
Oh, man.
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Bro,
You can't
okay.
say I'm dominating.
It's like,
That,
yeah. It's one of those things where, like, if he then goes out on the court and plays soft, it's like, dude, what is wrong with you? But if he goes out there and, like, actually dominates, it's like, all right, call yourself whatever you want. You are dominating, so you are dominant. I will call him dominating if he's dominating. But if he's, he has to come with a mindset to dominate, and I felt like that was kind of part of the reason why Phoenix soured on him so much is he had moments where he didn't show his motor. Like he had moments where he slacked off. He had a lot of moments where it seemed like he could dunk the ball or dunk on someone, and he shoots some little flip shot or push, floater. And that's why it was always funny when fans would complain about Nurkic that way and say, like, we need a guy like DeAndre Ayton, because DeAndre Ayton dunks more, but he's more athletic. And he has a lot of moments where he will shoot some finesse stuff, and it's like, man, just go dominate. Go dunk on someone. You're big and freakishly athletic for your size. And quick. Like, you know what I mean? Dominate. So, that's the mindset he has to have. It's just, you can sit here and say it, but you gotta go show it.
I want, like, Scoot to say, that's my guy, he's dominating out there. Not, yeah, call me dominating, because that's what I do. Like, that just seems so weird.
Yeah. Have you seen the tattoo?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Interesting tattoo.
It just seems so funny to have someone call themselves their nickname. Like, I don't know.
What would my nickname be? A playoff award?
Well, I don't know, but like, used to be called Bones Jones, right? So like, that it would just be weird if like that's how you introduced yourself, like on every show. I'm Bones Jones, like.
God, that's so cringe. I don't associate with that nickname.
I know, not. I'm just not saying anything about the nickname itself. I'm just saying like that's weird.
Oh yeah. Well, what's up, guys? It's Victory here because all I do is win. DJ Khaled theme music plays in the background.
Nice.
If I could get that song to not get copyright claimed, that would be my intro for every stream.
Nice. Well, yeah, Super has a good question. Did he give himself that nickname, or did someone else give it to him? Because if he gave himself that nickname, that's lame.
Yeah. DA can be DA as long as he's dominating. It's just kind of my whole thing. Like, I did cringe a little bit, but whatever, man. Like, seems like
it's fine. Know. I'm not really like mad at him, or it's not serious. Like, don't think I'm hating on it.
It's so negative.
Don't hate.
Oh man.
Sailor Backer says you already know he gave it to himself. Don't play. Yeah. I know. I was hoping that it wasn't, but that does seem like something. Yeah, Arshad says Aiden is our corny goat. Yeah, you got to have someone corny on the team, right? I don't think he thinks he's corny though.
We didn't have anyone that who was the corniest player on the team last year?
I don't know.
Chat, who was the corniest player on the team last year? I feel like we didn't have anybody super corny. GP2, he wasn't really on the team though, so I don't think it counts. But it definitely would have been GP2. I don't think Hart is corny at all. I think Hart's funny.
He's kind of corny in a funny way.
In like a self-aware way. If you act corny but you're self-aware of it and it's like to play up a joke, then it's not corny. Is how I will analyze that. Because we analyze everything. CJ Ellaby. I wonder if his mom still hates me.
For sure.
She didn't like one of the player reviews I did on him. Oh, man. Yeah. Tori and Eric want to gossip about a man's nickname like some lamos. There, I knew we were destined for a comment like that.
Who said that? Oh. Dude, lighten up, Mike. Jeez, why is everyone so...
Tori and Eric are laughing. No. We want them to not be negative, but they're being too positive.
Yeah, last stream someone was like, "Can you please smile, Eric? I've never seen you smile ever before. Like, you never smile."
Well, okay, we're smiling, chat. We're smiling, alright? Be careful what you ask for, I guess.
Delusional Blazer Sand wants to know what happened with Eloise mom.
Oh, God, dude. She, basically ranted at me in the comment section of one of his player reviews. Actually, chat, do you want me to go find it and read it off? I'll find it and read it off. Because I think it's still there. Player review. Yeah, I think it was this one. It's okay, so there was a comment. Somebody related to him because the name had the last name Ellaby. Said, I kind of feel bad reading it off, but they went after me, so why should I feel bad? So the comment said, between WSU and the NBA, they tried to change his shot. If it's not broke, why fix it? He has all the intangibles, and sometimes guys aren't ready for his thread the needle passes. Yeah, that's the biggest problem, and that's why Ellaby's out of the league. Guys weren't ready for his thread the needle passes. Did you know he was told not to shoot the ball at all? He's got great IQ and in college made multiple buzzer beater game-winning shots. His only downfall is that he got drafted by a team in transition. First, the coach got fired, then the GM got fired, and now there's media about toxic ownership. Well, that part was right. Chauncey got him a Swiss Army knife type of player. His court vision is great. He's a glue guy type of player, plays with energy, and makes great shot choices. He was drafted by a team that didn't develop him. If you were keeping guys like Kelja Blevins and letting Ellaby go, then they're clearly...
That's a good point, too. I mean...
Then there's clearly nepotism in this franchise. I really wonder how much you know about basketball. You're a joke.
I was just spitting facts.
Oh, man. So, yeah. I mean, I am a joke. So, she was right about everything. Shout out to J-Po with the $2 dono. Says, love Ellaby, had a class with him at WSU.
Nice.
Ellaby seems like a cool dude. It's like, if he struggles all season long and I do a player review, I can't sit there and say, oh, he's great. Other players just didn't play well enough for him to look good because they dropped his thread the needle passes. Like, if I review a player that struggled all season, I mean, what else am I supposed to say? Maybe all that stuff is true, but, like, because of all that, he struggled. So, you know. And here's the thing. With player review videos and videos in general, I try to be nicer than I will be on streams just because it's a video and it's, like, easier to kind of pick my words and edit it and that sort of thing. Like, we went live for the Drew Holiday trade, and I was on, like, 4 hours of sleep early in the morning. I'm just, like, I was having trouble wording what I wanted to say. So then, of course, there's a bunch of rage comments at me. Like, it's tough, you know? It's tough. In a video, it's a little easier. So I always try and be nice. Because I don't want a family member seeing a video that's specifically about somebody that's, like, in their family and it just be me trashing them. So I always try and just, like, be objective but fair. Didn't work with that one, I guess. Anyway, anything else from Media Day? Chat, do you have any questions regarding Media Day or this team? We'll kind of wrap up that section.
I want to say something.
Good.
What do you feel about Dwayne Hankins saying that they're putting all this effort into broadcasts and it's going to have a national feel and they're going to have all these great new features on it and stuff like that, but it's still on Root Sports, and yeah, I don't know. He talked about their
Bro,
great partnership with Root Sports. I laughed out loud.
last year it was, we're going to bring a new generation, like, analytical statistical look at the game. It's going to be advanced, and basically talked all that up, and all it was like they'd have a couple graphics with like random advanced stats, and then like Corey Jez would come on twice a game and say like, yeah, Portland in transition this game is doing well with 1.3 points per possession, and like that's all it was.
And then they
You know what I mean? No hate on Corey Jez. And then they fire him. I like Corey Jez, you know, so it's not against Corey Jez. It's just like, that was your new wave, next gen analytical production. They'd have that graphic where it'd be like the percentage for a player to make a shot, and it's like sometimes it would be obviously ridiculously off. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, they talked it up more than they could deliver on it. And it's just the following season, they are doing that again. Now it's a national feel and a bunch of new features. We'll see, but I'm not going to get too excited. The thing is, Eric, if they want a national feel, they have to change the scoreboard. They can't do what they did last year, because that was not a scoreboard that looked like it would be on a national broadcast.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that he was talking about Root Sports. And I hate this idea that we're trying to do what's best for as many fans as possible. But they ignore the fact that, like, yeah, it's available on more TVs on Root Sports, but like a lot of those are in like Eastern Washington and Idaho and places that aren't necessarily Blazer fans. They're just counting them as more fans being able to watch the game, when it's not. There's places all over in Washington that probably could care less about, or couldn't care less about the Blazers, and
especially Idaho. Like,
yeah,
who in Eastern Idaho is watching a Mariners game? Probably a few people, but the percentage of people is probably very, very low. I'm sure they have numbers on this, but like, make it available for all your diehard fans. They need to just have a streaming option, like what the Jazz did.
He was
I
asked
missed
about
his
that.
answer.
What
did he say?
He says they're keeping an eye on that, and I guess the Golden Knights in hockey are doing that too. But
keeping an eye on it. So once it becomes obvious that is the wave.
Well, I think like teams like the Blazers are probably pissed at Ishbia for doing that with the Suns, because it makes everyone else look bad, right?
I love it, though. I love it.
You're freaking rich, making millions of dollars. You can't just give us the games. And I also think what Ishbia is doing is super smart, because it might not, help him financially short term, but just think how many more people are going to be able to watch games and become Phoenix Suns fans, whether that's kids or adults that wouldn't have invested much time into it if they had to pay for it, and they get to, like, that's gonna create a whole new generation of Phoenix Suns fans that will eventually spend money, and you'll make that money back. And so, like, I think that's so smart to do that, and that's just like such an easy way to grow your brand. And I just think people. Same thing happened in like college football and stuff. That's why like it's all falling apart. And I think they're not thinking about. They're just like immediate. This much money per year is what all that matters, and they're not thinking about how it changes the whole dynamic of college sports or your viewing experience for an NBA team. And I just think that's really short-sighted.
Yeah.
Especially with all these regional sports networks falling apart and going bankrupt and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know what Bally's doing? They are putting podcasts on air because they don't have to put money in to produce it, but it's sports content. That's, which, like, podcasts and production of such has gotten better, you know what I mean? Like, you can come up with something that looks decent with just an overlay and just talk. But yeah, regional sports networks are going the way of like, oh, we need sports content instead of producing it in-house or in a studio. We are going to go and have somebody who just does it at home, and we're just going to throw it up on TV because we don't have to put any money in.
Yeah.
And then we can still make the money off that, the ad revenue, off of commercials. And if there's an ad on it, like, take a split of that maybe. So yeah. It's just kind of funny because that's what Bally's been doing. But, you know, it's interesting because I just saw this going. I saw this going this way for a long time, and I wanted the Blazers to be first on it. And when they signed the Root Sports deal, it was like, oh, you could have been first on what the future is going to be. And that's what I said at the time. Instead, you're going into something and you're screaming about, oh, people in Alaska can watch us in Idaho too. Like, what are you doing? You're just stuck in the before times. Like, be the trendsetter, right? It's like, if you're going to talk up your stuff like, oh, we're going to have a next-gen broadcast and we're going to have a national feeling broadcast and do this and do that, well, why don't you just get ahead of the curve on where that broadcast goes and how people can access said broadcast? Because it's already a mess anyway, because a lot of people can just go on an illegal stream and like legally can't be held liable for doing so, which the NBA and sports leagues are going to try and crack down on, but it's already where you're not getting anything through people watching it through like Stream East or whatever. So what's the future, you know? It's just, I feel like the Blazers are going to be one of the last teams to that wave.
Yeah. And for people asking, no, it's not on YouTube TV. Root Sports is not, so you can't get all the Blazer games if you have YouTube TV, which is also dumb.
Yeah, and their website quality, I think, was pretty bad. You have to watch it in-home Wi-Fi with Xfinity. It's just so annoying. And I hate it.
Portland 77 brings up WGN and the Cubs back in the day, and yeah, TBS used to have all the Braves games on there, and there's so many people my age that are Braves fans in Oregon for like, there's no reason other than you could watch all their games and you became a fan of a team, and that's what happened. And then that started going away when they realized they could charge money for it and stuff on different channels. And it's I just think it's so narrow-minded, and it leads to a much less pleasant experience as a fan. Yeah. By having to like try to find games or use illegal streams and things like that. Whereas Phoenix fans this year don't have to worry about any of that. They can just, I mean, that their owner's sending people free antennas to get the game if they don't have a right TV or whatever. So
watch. Gabe's gonna be able to like stream the actual game while he does his watch parties in a couple years from now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, maybe not, but that's the thing, is I wouldn't be surprised if they had the right connection. If HBO would be like, yeah, sure, you can stream the game on your YouTube channel with your live watch party, and, you know, we'll just give you a feed with no commentators on it, and you can commentate it yourself. Like, screw it. HBO is a great owner, man. They went from the worst owner in the league to the best. I wish we had Matt Ishbia as our owner, man. Oh, man. NBA won't allow. Well, Matt Ishbia is a powerful man. Who knows? I mean, the NBA is going to have to renegotiate their TV deal. That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. If it's free, though, like, why? I don't understand why, if you're trying to just get it as many people, why wouldn't you just let people put it on?
Probably it has to do with like calculating the revenue from commercials, but other than that, that's the only reason.
Yeah.
So. Yep. Anyway, if you guys have any questions about the content for this year, put it in chat, because I released the content trailer yesterday, and we're doing a lot this year. So if you have any questions on it, let me know. Basically, we're doing pregame videos, watch parties, and post-game shows for every game. And then on the second channel, Blazers Uprise podcast, we have Blazers Uprise Live Mondays and Thursdays. We have 503. You probably know him on Twitter if you go on Twitter. 503 for the fans on Twitter. He'll have a podcast with Chase McGraw, who's somebody that went to Dan Patrick's broadcast school, like knows some Photoshop, like is very capable. So their podcast, the first episode will be on the 10th. That'll be Tuesdays. Or not on the 10th, on the on the 10th. So this Tuesday they won't have their first episode, but next Tuesday they will. Eric and Crushables have a podcast dropping Wednesdays on that second channel. Crushables is if you don't know him, is a big NBA 2K YouTuber, over 40,000 subs. I had him on a stream a few weeks ago. So you guys, Eric, doing your podcast, your first episode, you're planning on dropping this Wednesday, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so I got Krish finishing up a logo for that. Like, I'm really looking forward to that. 503's podcast is going to be like fan focused, so we got a couple ideas for like audio submitted questions, Twitter polls. You know, he has a big Twitter presence, so like we're going to try and make each show have its own feel, keep things fresh. But then Friday we'll do me and Steven's podcast, and that's just where we yell at each other basically. We just argue. So yeah, it should be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. So if you guys have any questions regarding any of that, there's a question in chat. What will Hoops Crush be like? I don't know if you figured that out yet, but
yeah, I mean, we're open to suggestions. I don't know. I just I really am fond of Crushable's work on his channel. I mean, I'm not super into 2K or rebuilds or anything, but I like really enjoyed listening to him on some of his just like regular commentary on basketball, and happened to listen to a video once where he said he wanted to get more into like actual NBA and Blazer talk and stuff on a podcast or whatever. And so like I reached out to him. This must have been like a year and a half ago or something.
You already reached out to him? Because I thought I paired you guys up, but you already reached out to him, huh?
No, I was like, it would be fun to collab sometime. Yeah. Like, I didn't know if that meant like us going on his show or him coming on ours or whatever. And yeah, so like we've been talking ever since, and now of course he's a good member of the community. But yeah, he's a super knowledgeable NBA fan because of all the stuff he does, and so, but he does want to talk about the Blazers and has opinions and stuff. So we'll probably mostly focus on that, but we're trying to come up with some like fun segments that we can do every week, and to make it kind of lighthearted and fun as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of a goal with the content this year, is just to have more segments with stuff. So like, and plan out shows a little bit more, plan out Blazers Uprise Live a little bit more. Like we're gonna do that, you know, board with like hot takes, right? And I think maybe we just color code the sticky notes, you know, and just I'll write stuff down because we've talked about that in the past. Like there's a few other ideas for things, you know, like maybe we, you know, I don't know, like I've seen shows do like a wheel that they spin for a segment. Like I'm always looking at other shows, and I'm helping out a lot of shows right now. A lot of other channels right now build out shows. So, you know, I see a bunch of stuff and it's like, oh, that would be fun just to switch it up, because we just sit here and talk normally and analyze and this and that. But like if we just had a fun segment, 5-10 minute segment that just has something to it, I think it creates a more entertaining product. So that's what I'm focusing on this year, is just how can we entertain you guys more, because I think we do a pretty good job just going live without much of a plan and talking, but having extra stuff like that I think just kind of you know, keeps things fresh and divides up the show in a way that's nice, and that's kind of the goal for a lot of stuff next season. So yeah, if you guys have segment ideas, you can send them to me. Send them to Eric if you have a segment idea for him in Crushables. Taylor Packer had a question asking, how'd you guys decide who would team up on podcasts like Crushables and Eric? Honestly, the first time I thought about Crushables and Eric, I was just thinking of how your Twitter name is Hoopsjock Eric, and it's Crushables, and how Hoops Crush would just be a really good podcast name. So, like, it's an amazing podcast name. And it's just combining your two names. So I was like, oh man, that'd be kind of dope. And I think they'd be good together. I think you guys would be good together. So
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be
looking
fun.
forward to it.
And then 503 and Chase. 503 has done a podcast before. So it was just like, I have mine and Steven's, mine and Eric's, Eric and Crushables, and then 503 has his podcast. He needed someone for it, and Chase is a guy that I've been talking to for a while, like, because he went to school for like broadcasting and tried to learn some Photoshop and graphics and wanted to get into this. So, you know, the fact that he already took time out of his life to go to Dan Patrick's School of Broadcasting and actually commit something to it showed me something. So he's like the one guy without a platform yet, but he's a guy that I'm looking to mentor and develop. You know, we're developing here this season. So him and 503 was the key. And I wanted to do watch parties this year. That was the other thing. So like, there's a question in chat, how many watch parties? I want to do watch parties for every game. And a big reason why is because, like, if some of you guys might not know them, but a lot of you probably do. So Suns Valley Podcast, my friend Gabe, we first met when he had only a couple hundred subscribers, and his channel is blown up, and they just do live watch parties during games. They do a little bit of a post-game recap, but it's mostly just live watch parties, and they've had a ton of success. And it's like, man, it's about time where if we really want to push it and really want to grow this thing, like, doing live watch parties and post-game shows would be amazing. Now, the problem is, for me, like, 4.5 hours live in a row is a bit exhausting. So it was like, bringing in these other people with Blazers Uprise podcasts and all that will be people that can run some watch parties. Like, I won't be on every watch party. My goal is to be on maybe like a third of them. And just have it rotate so the watch parties are fresh. And it's like, you know, one day it might be Eric and Crushables. Next game it might be me and Steven. Next game it might be 503 and Chase. That's kind of the whole goal with that. Because I don't want to take away from post-game shows. Because I know a lot of you love post-game shows and how we do post-game shows. So it's like, that's just something extra that won't take away from post-game shows. And that's how I'm not going to be completely burnt out, is because I'm not going to be doing every single one. You know, we'll see how many I end up doing, but that's how I'm going to stay fresh, you know.
Just for the record, it won't always be like the same two people linked up. Like, Steven and I could do a watch party, or like 503 and Crushables or something, you know.
Yeah, so Steven will probably be on the least, but I do want to get him on for, you know, like one every couple of weeks. And then me, Eric, Chase, 503 Crushables, I think it should be pretty even. And yeah, it'll be fun to like mix and match guys. And it's like, if Rich wanted to do one with you, like, you know, Rich is a guy that I definitely want to bring on the channel. You know, I didn't bring in his podcast because he's going strong with his channel, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to take away from what he's doing. I wanted to just support what he's doing and keep plugging his channel, and then do collaborations with him so like he can get more eyes on his channel, because his content is amazing. That's Rip City Retro, if you guys don't know who we're talking about, with Rich at Rip City Retro. He's hilarious, and you've done stuff with him, Eric. Are you guys still planning on doing stuff?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's weird because the channel is both of ours.
Is it?
Yeah, so but like he just has fun doing all his little videos and interacting with comments and stuff. So like, he's always doing stuff on the side. But yeah, because Rich has watched us for a while and then started it, and yeah, he does amazing stuff. So I know there's a couple questions like, why isn't he a part of this? It's because he already has his own channel going. You know, you guys have your own channel for that going strong, and I'd rather just support that because you already got it up and running and rolling. So yeah, he's basically taking it over and is doing all the work on that channel. So yeah. There's a comment or a question that says, any in-person party at a venue again? So the goal is going to be to find a restaurant sponsor in the next 3 weeks before the start of the season that
I could do ad reads for on content, but then as part of the sponsorship once a month, we can actually use the space for a watch party. And it's something where, like last year we had a theater and we charged entry, and like we just had a guy that works at the theater making food basically. I think it would be better to just not charge people and just say, yo, we're doing a watch party at this restaurant. You can show up. They got good food. And just kind of work that into the sponsorship. So if any of you know anyone that has a local restaurant that you think would be good for it, it needs a space to be able to like set aside for a watch party and maybe do a post-game stream from, then let me know. If you're able to hook something up and actually lands a sponsorship deal, I will kick you some commission for that. Because I know we have a pretty, wide-ranging community, and it's a little easier to get my foot in the door trying to pitch this to restaurants if it's like if there's a mutual connection, basically. So, hit me up, email me, Torey, Torey, at blazersuprise.com or blazersuprise@gmail.com. Might work a little better, I'm not sure. Email me, DM me on Twitter. You can DM Eric too. You can message us on Discord as well. There's a link to that in the description. There's a bunch of ways to get in contact with us. So, that's the goal. Because that'd be really cool.
Yep. And Taylor's asking about the pregame shows, if those would be constantly rotating hosts as well. Those aren't hosted shows. They're
videos.
Quick hitter videos.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to try and put in a lot of work into editing them. I know I tried some pregame stuff last year, but I don't think it flowed well, and I think it was kind of like too much stats. So it's going to be more of like a quick hitting video, and then I want to do more with guests, and I've gotten to know a couple other solid NBA creators, so I want to bring in a guest for like a little 4 or 5 minute quick hitting interview for some games where I'm just asking them about their team, and it just gives you guys insight, but it's not like super drug out. Gives you guys insight into the game, maybe some storylines for the other team, might make watching the game a little bit more intriguing. Mm-hmm. So that's the goal with those. They'll probably be like 7-8 minute videos. Eric Olson said, "Don't overwork yourself." I'm as motivated as ever, man. I'm as motivated as ever. Like, that's the thing, is the watch parties shouldn't be too hard to run, and I'm not going to be running them all. So pre-game videos and post-games and occasional watch parties, I can handle that. The other podcasts or other people. That's the whole point of like bringing in other people, so we can give you more content without it being completely reliant upon me, because there are talented people out there, and I brought in all these people for a reason. Picks against the spread this year, yes, absolutely. And yeah, we'll see. I think Trevin said he didn't want to do it, but he might have been trolling because all our mods troll. Yeah, we'll have picks against the spread, and we actually have a new sportsbook sponsor for this year. It's BetUS, so we'll have more on that in the future. But yeah, we got a sportsbook sponsor for that.
Earlier in the show, Carlo Barlow said he saw me at In-N-Out yesterday and was going to ask me about the trade. But, man, I don't understand why people don't say hi when they...
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird when you don't say anything and then say it later that you saw me.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. Dude, the line was so freaking long.
Was it?
So
I haven't been to In-N-Out in so long.
I was helping my oldest move down back to school, and yeah, I was like, I'm gonna stop at In-N-Out on my way home or whatever. And so, like, it was busy, but I usually go inside. It's usually not too bad. Mm-hmm. And so I order in, like, they give me my order numbers like 10, and they start calling out numbers, and they're at like 40. And I'm like, what the heck? It's not really like 70 numbers away, is it? And yep, it was 70 numbers away.
Yikes. How long did that take?
It was almost an hour, like 50 some minutes until I got
a live stream from there waiting for your food.
Out
with.
There was a ton of people with like Niner clothes on because it was right after the Niner game, but yeah.
Q Willikers says he sees you all the time, but he's always too starstruck to say hi.
Yeah, for fast food, waiting an hour is so ridiculous. But I'd already ordered, like, by the time I realized how long it was going to be, like, I never thought it would be that long.
You're making me hungry. Um, there's a question about NBA Uprise. I just want to make sure pull this off as well as possible. Like if I had somebody that I can consistently pay to edit NBA Uprise videos well, where I could just like record for 15 minutes a day and send it off and not have to worry about it, then yeah, I'd probably be doing that because I want to get an NBA channel off the ground. It's just like that's kind of one thing where with everything I'm doing with this is committing to this, and then I'm helping out a bunch of other channels, and it's just like I feel like if I did say, oh, I'm gonna do this with NBA Uprise, that would be something that would be really hard to keep up with, and I maybe wouldn't. So I wanted to commit to everything with this channel instead. What doesn't exist anymore?
He says he was stalking me at my previous business.
Yeah. I'd settle for Bucks Uprise. Yeah, I saw somebody earlier say, what about a Bucks segment? Like, we will have around the NBA and we'll focus on Dame.
Yeah.
Picks against the spread. Yeah, we'll focus on Dame and be rooting for the Bucks from afar, and so I'm just gonna spoil my first Bet US like ad read. I'm gonna be hopefully motivating you guys to join me in putting down some money on the Bucks to win a championship, so that we can root for the Bucks together, and it's a little bit more investing because we got a little bit of money on the line. You know what I mean? So that's the first Bet US ad read is focusing on the Bucks championship odds. So I'll have like a link for you guys. And as far as sponsors go, using a sponsor of ours is very supportive for the channel. Because it's not like we're just so big that we can just throw something up and it's like brand awareness, and these brands don't care about conversions. Like, it is important for us to convert on the brand deals that we do have, and it allows us to get extensions of those brand deals. So with like Manta, you use that promo code Uprise, 10% off at mantasleep.com, link in the top of the description. Like, that's very helpful for us. So that's just kind of what I'll continue to say. Obviously, it's on us to get more eyeballs to the channel so that we can get more brands, and that's we're not gonna water stuff down and have 5 ads and a 10-minute video. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely gonna be planned out. But with how much we stream and how much content there is, we do want to bring in more brands, because obviously that's how we can get paid. So that's kind of the goal this year, and luckily I'm in a position where through my help with these other creators I'm able to get some more brand deals. So
Taylor Packer says he needs an Eric and Steven debate first take style at some point. That would just be me rolling my eyes for an hour.
Well, that's the Blazers Uprise roundtable.
Yeah.
On a weekend. Like, I definitely, and we'll rotate that in, it won't be anything obligated. Like, I'll basically just send something out where, do you guys want to be on it this week? And if we have spots to fill, maybe I hit up like maybe a fan. Maybe we can do like fan audition tapes, and then if we have an open spot, 4 hosts per show is the goal. If we have an open spot and you have a good enough audition tape, you could actually come on for an episode. That could be something cool that I think people might enjoy the opportunity to do. So yeah, we're open to all sorts of stuff, but that is where it would be sick to just sit there and like listen to you two go at each other and just moderate it. That would be very entertaining. Gray's already cooking up his audition tape, Eric.
Yeah, good thing he left already.
Whatever happened to Tory rating jumpers? Let me write that down. See, like, that would be a great random little segment to Blazers Uprise Live, just a little 5-minute segment. Like, we're going to rate your jumpers. maybe you don't want it on the stream, but like you could send us a video and we could give you jump shot advice. Just little fun stuff is kind of the goal. Obviously, we're going to still break things down and talk a ton of Blazer basketball. We'll have a ton of content like that. You know, I just like little fun changes of pace I think would be good for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready for more Brant's breakdowns too. I'm ready for more Brant's breakdowns, Eric. Man, are we you gonna be doing those for preseason games?
I don't know about preseason, but yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Sure.
Looking forward to it. Anyway, that kind of covers everything, I think. Shout out to David C., member for 11 months. Thanks for providing content all summer, of course. We got you. Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited for the season. This was nice to be able to talk basketball, like, instead of argue about Joe Cronin.
Yeah, well, we could have definitely done that today, as he asked for our patience yet again. This freaking dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll move on. Here's the thing. Everything he says from now on is GM speak. Everything. I will never read into anything. It'll all just be GM speak, and none of it is actually real. Nothing he says is actually real. That's where I'm going with it. So, is Brogdon staying? I mean, it sounds like it.
For now, at least.
Yeah. We'll take questions. If you need life advice, which is funny.
We missed an Alvaro Bazan donation.
Oh, did I miss Alvaro? My guy Alvaro, man. Shout out to Alvaro Bazan with a... Also, let me know if I'm saying it wrong. Is that how you say it? I trust you, Eric. $5 dono from Alvaro says, how was the drive home when the Dame trade happened? What was the thought process, Eric?
I don't know. I was at work. I was so distracted. Just trying to get out of there. Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to get home as quickly as possible to stream, but yeah. The thought process was, why the Bucks? Because I knew they only had one first they could trade, and so that was a little frustrating. And yeah, at the time I hadn't seen that interview with Drew Holiday that he was now open to an extension, so I thought it might have been like he might not have been worth much in a trade, but once we found out that he was one in commodity and that teams were willing to give a lot for him, it eased it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Cronin did a good job getting value back. I graded his series of trades a B+, an A- if he gets a first for Brogdon before the season, and an A if he also flipped Robert Williams for a solid first. Because, you know, I kind of just want to stockpile firsts, and I'm not Yeah, I already talked about my questions with, like, Robert Williams' role, ability to stay healthy, ability to play next to Ayton, and, like, that being a pairing that fits. So I fully understand why people want to keep him, though. That's kind of a center we've wanted for a long time now. So I'm not against that either at this point.
I don't like either of them playing the 4, though.
I don't either. I do not either. So, but, you know, people wanted us to move on. This was the day to move on, Eric. Because we got media day, and then we got training camp to talk about on Thursday, and then we got a game in now officially a week because it's October 3rd on the West Coast, which means it's time for us to sign off. Next Tuesday is our first preseason game, 1 week away. That's crazy. Anyway, do you guys think Williams will push Ayton in practice? I think he will. Blazers have plenty of power forwards. Yeah, I mean, honestly, is there a chance Tamani Kamara might look better than Jabari Walker and Chris Murray? Because he looked really good in Summer League.
I think there's a really good chance that happens.
Yeah, you cannot write off Tamani Kamara. That's where I'm down to trade Jeremy Grant in the middle of the season and just give all three of those guys 16 minutes a game and see who looks the best. Tamani Kamara was a very good pickup in that Ayton trade. I was very surprised to see him included.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Anyway, anything else, Eric?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you all have a good night, and yeah, we'll see you all on Thursday.
Yep, and before we get out of here, make sure you get yourself a Mansa sleep mask. Promo code Uprise for 10% off. Link in description box below. Thank you to them for sponsoring this episode. On Thursday, we'll be back on the second channel, which is now Blazers Uprise Podcasts. The show is still called Blazers Uprise Live, but the channel is Blazers Uprise Podcast because we're doing more than ever. Eric and Crushable's podcast called the Hoops Crush Podcast will be out on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. And with that being said, we are out of here. I'll catch you guys next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.